Start.
Wait, what's wrong with Kappa?
Nothing, Jacha. That's true. And
Oh, true.
yeah, and Cap also has power for being a judge. So yeah, it's recording by the way. So whenever you guys are ready to start, go ahead.
Would you give judges power? Judge.
I guess we'll start now if Jin's alright with it.
Dream,
Yeah,
John, and I will judge Dreams.
Alright, cool. So, I guess I'll start my introductions first. I'm using Akuto Sai from Demon King Daima. He's a very powerful character. He should be bare minimum, outer versal, obviously. However, high outer versal to the infinite layered range is also proper scaling for him as well. That's going to be bare minimum. His powers are mainly around narrative creation and erasure, as well as being a literal living Deus Ex Machina. I think that he's just going to narratively erase anything from blazblue. Jesus Christ. That's basically what I'm gonna say.
Okay, well, was it BlazBlue basically has like outer versal characters bare minimum, like the low tiers. Like going to the high tiers like Izanami, they should have like infinite layers as well. And like their hacks basically go around everywhere. So like plot manipulation, time stop, narrative erasure, conceptual erasure, stuff just jumps around all crazy. I think BlazBlue win because like they have hacks that can bypass layers of resistances.
I guess we'll start out of work our way. So the reason that Akuto high out of bare minimum because he writes stories with all of story within them. Logic.
Forks, you're like really muffled.
Yeah, Forks, you're like cutting in and out.
Tell me if I.
You keep cutting in and out.
Give me. Is anybody there?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
No, you cut out like at the last second.
Ish. But I'm gonna try talking as loudly as I can. Okay. So Akuto fictionally transcends the concept of possible worlds. These include all possible concepts, both logical and illogical, and these, of course, these concepts, of course, contain time and space. So transcending the concept of space is obviously outer versal, bare minimum.
I got you. Can I get the scan for that?
Sure.
While I getting the scan, I'm just gonna post for where I think like Izanami's outer versals.
The reason that I'm just trying to start at this like small basis is because I looked up blazblue and I saw that it was supposedly like fucking country level to universe level, and obviously I don't trust VSBW, but I just wanted to get confirmation before we go into like the high shit.
Yeah, like they don't know how to scale it that much. Like they look past stuff.
Yeah,
like,
they
downplay shit.
I don't trust them. I just wanted to get confirmation.
Yeah, like you can definitely scale them to that, but that's like a real low ball. All right, well I'm about to post a scan for them transcending concepts. All right, so basically the Nox Naturs like weapons for like some of the high tiers. They have like was it the Nox Naturs, and like each one like transcend the concept of space and time. It's basically over it. And like Izanami is basically like the god of the verse. and it's basically like death and like embodiment of death. And like she scales to like Ragnar since like they fought multiple times. And so like she beat like Yuki Terumi, who like beat Ragnar multiple times. I'll get scans for that right now.
So by how much do they transcend the concept of space and time?
Um, Probably like in like millions of infinite layers.
What do you mean by millions of infinite layers of outer versal?
Yeah, like you know how there's multiple infinities. They basically
Yeah.
like have millions of infinite layers stacked on top of each other.
Why would that be the case?
Since was it the Azure basically stated to like transcend itself basically like what is it millions of times to the same amount the smallest one does life, and like life basically has this boundary would transcend stuff like these like what's Noxiters like to an infinite amount as well. So like in like side these like smaller pieces and higher pieces of the Azure, it like remakes the verse again, and like inside this verse you'll have infinite layers again and again, going on up until like infinite layers of like infinity and stuff.
All right. This sounds like a lot of information. Can you provide to me the scans where your interpretations are based on?
Yeah, I got you. Let
Can
me
you
see if
read?
they posted in order.
See that?
All right. Basically, all right. So you have the blue, which is like the smallest piece of the Azure, and it basically like fixely transcend the Nox Terrorist like one time since like it separates the world like the author and writer. So it'd be like a fictional transcendence from like outer versal, and then like inside the fictional transcendence you have like a boundary which has have like infinite like higher dimensional spaces above it will be like an infinite layer. Then you have a higher piece of the fragment remaking the verse again, and there's millions of fragments, and inside these millions of fragments you have like infinite layers of outer versal.
Um, just give me a moment to look over these.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only quote that I can see that kind of sticks out to me to support your premise is the last one, in which it says that the smaller fragments, the bigger fragments transcend a smaller one, like the smallest one does life.
Yeah, and like they'll just like have like millions of infinite layers.
Infinite layers. Um, yeah. So you went over a lot of information. So really, pardon me if I missed. But where does it say that the smaller one does to life? Right. Where does it? What difference of power is that? Right.
All right, so basically like the smallest one basically like fictionally transcends outer versal, and then it has like the boundary, and the boundary has like infinite transcendences above that. So you have like infinite layers of outer versal, and then the next higher fragment will do the same thing but on a higher scale. That's why you will have like millions of outer versal layers.
So where does it?
What are you looking for?
Where?
Say it again.
Right. Is it? You said that.
You keep cutting out
You hear me?
a little bit.
Because they're infinite dimensions, right? Above.
Say it again.
Type really
Forks, I don't know if you're trying to talk, but you're literally like not saying anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the issue with my mic is on that case.
Okay, I can hear you just fine now.
Maybe I'm just too close to my microphone. It's kind of weird. Is that what you're trying to say, Jin? Because they have infinite dimensions?
No, just dimension like scales above what is it? The noxiters. So it'd be like infinite like transcendences. It's like an outer versal. Then you have the next fragment, but does the same thing but on a higher level. So it'd be like millions of infinite layers.
Right, but that's not how it would work because we have millions of fictional transcendences, right? But the thing is that I'm just not following that logic. Would you be saying that the infinite each like after a certain point, each like dimensional tier or dimensional difference is an outer versal layer?
Yeah.
Why? What's the logic behind that? Because obviously those people like obviously right a fictional transcendence is what we would consider an outer versal layer, right? So by that logic, you'd have to say that each dimensional difference is fictionally transcending itself in order to get them to that level, which obviously they don't.
I literally just lagged out.
Right. What I'm
Alright.
saying is that you'd have to argue that dimensional difference is a fictional transcendence on top of each other in those like categories, right? That you're trying to make out in order to make that scaling make sense. But that's
Like
very
the boundary. Because like the boundary like have like infinite outer versal transcendences above was it?
right. But why is that the case, right? You said that it's because the dimensional differences, right? Infinite dimensions in that higher level would equate to like infinite fictional transcendences, but that's very illogical. A dimensional difference is not a fictional transcendence.
Alright, the reason why the boundary with like have these like transcendences because like people like Hakumen, right? Like who would have like another outer versal transcendence, like that scale to the like what is it the true form Azure and stuff.
Okay.
Also like gets affected by like the boundary and stuff. So like the boundary like in order to like affect Hakumen, it would have like each layer would have to be like an outer versal transcendence instead of fictional one.
Not each dimensional layer. Here's how I would view it, right? You would have the first layer, right? Then you would fictionally transcend that, right? And every single dimension within that fictional transcendence would literally just count within that one fictional transcendence because
No. Because if that was the case, right, the boundary wouldn't affect Hakumen at all. Because he would be so much above it. In order for the boundary like to actually affect them, it would have to have like outer versal transcendences as well.
which
I
fucking
believe I have the scan with like the boundary actually affecting them. Let me see.
Can you like do that? Because I'm trying to follow you really quickly. Maybe I'm just really fucking ignorant, which is probably the case, to be honest. My bad. But it just doesn't seem logical to me to try to claim that unless you can like show evidence that verifies this, that a dimensional difference would be a fictional transcendence in this case, right? Because if we apply the same logic for dimensional difference to that layer of outer versal, even though it's kind of weird because it'd be beyond the concept of dimensions, to let's just say how we would view it. Like we don't really view a third, a zero or a first or second dimensional being as fiction, and there's nothing to suggest an infinite D being would view us as fiction. We're just like many just dimensional layers below them. So I'm just not following the logic.
I'm about to what is it? I'm about to log into the game and like get the scan real quick. So like I'll be
Yeah,
right
that's
back.
fine. That's fine. I suppose while I'm doing this, I'll just try to make a case for akuto being higher than this, just in case. And then we can review that after, I suppose. I'm just gonna get the stuff ready. Are you still gonna be able to hear me while you're doing that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. So so hold on. All right, so I got something. I'm back. Hold on. Here's just like visual evidence that space exists within the verse. I don't really think it was needed, but I just gave it anyway. So clearly, the third dimension, bare minimum, exists, right? And I think that we would both agree that the difference between a concept itself and the third dimension is greater than any like dimension to an infinite dimensional being or space, obviously.
Yeah.
All right. And Akutosai can create an infinite amount of stories, right? In which there's something called a universe god. I think it's called a universe god. Let me see. And basically, these characters are capable of creating, because this also falls under the possibility of creating stories below them that also have universe gods who can, again, do the same thing below them, right? And this creates an infinite hierarchy of which they can just create beings and like stories with concepts that are below them. So they have concepts that fictionally transcend each other, obviously, which is where the infinite layer thing comes into play, right? So I'm gonna make the claim right now that just until you get back with your evidence, obviously we can go over this after. That Akuto is also infinite layers, but he should be to a higher degree because he's not just transcending infinite dimensions, which I'm kind of still waiting on why those would be an outerversal difference between each dimension. That doesn't really follow the dimensionality logic that we typically use, in which it's just another axis, just another line or another segment on the axis, but that it's literally transcending concepts. These concepts transcend each other, etc.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like log in to get my primary account so I can activate going to like BlazBlue and stuff.
here is my scan to support my claim of infinite layers via fictional transcendences to an infinite scale on top of concepts themselves via the extra universe gods that Akuto's creating, who can obviously, just due to their power sets and the way they're described as characters and protagonists of their story, literally their story, that would extend to an infinite hierarchy. So
Alright, I'm just gonna like get in a scan that says he was in the boundary real quick. I already got it, like him falling into it.
do you think that you can have it in like 5 to 10 minutes, hopefully? Is that like gonna be possible?
Yeah, I think so.
Glad that my mic decided to start working again. It's great.
I'm gonna post the first one. I'm looking in like the thing right now for the second.
All right.
Here's him falling in. Alright, there we go. Yeah, so like when he like fell in, he fell like all the way to like the top, like went to like straight to the bottom where like the highest layer was. And he was able, like, he got affected and he lost about like 80% of his power, and he's been like fighting like ever since like he came back. He's been fighting for like 20% of his power throughout the whole series. And the reason why the boundaries should have like these artificial transcendences between each other, because was it this 20% Hakumen, like scales to whatchamacallit, Ragna, like bullies him throughout like the entire anime like series. And Ragna scales like the higher piece like higher pieces of the Azure, since there was a Forbidden Gate Like it's like the highest part of the cosmology where like the Azure and the gods sit. And Izanami is one of the gods. She's like the god of death and stuff, and she's like lower forms of herself. And Ragnar basically went there and fought people like Izanami and like Susanoo. And Ragnar like literally like gets bullied by Hakumen throughout the entire game. Then Hakumen falls through here and he gets affected and he's just sitting there for years, just like stuck, can't do nothing until like they pull him out. If you want scans for like Hakumen versus Ragnar, I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah.
All right.
The reason. Just bear with me. Stuff. I've
There you go. Was it like it's also like stated like Jin, like a weaker version of Hakumen, for like a different time. Like Jin, a weaker version of Hakumen from a different timeline, is literally like relative to if not greater, since like after he got like his power of order unlocked, he was like bullying Ragnar, and like Juve had to stop him. Basically, Ragnar's master trained him. This is their second battle when what is it? Jin unlocked his like power of order, so like he basically had like an amp relative to the Blue Grimoire, and like he just bullied Ragnar. Do you want scans like Ragnar scans the Azure? I'm gonna post it anyway. Now speak again, Forks.
Can you hear me?
I hear you a little bit.
So I'm remember how I
Say it again.
you know how I described the Akuto bare minimum.
Mhm.
It's probably like trying to fix him.
All right. Jin, can you hear me? I don't know what's going.
I heard you a little bit, then you cut out.
All right. Fuck it. I'm just gonna go with it. All right.
Mhm.
So do you know how I was trying to scale Akuto to layers into outer verse via the hierarchy.
Yeah.
All right. So Akuto should literally.
You cut out again.
Hello. Akuto's able to.
You keep cutting out.
Okay. So Akuto is able to create infinite amounts of these stories.
Mhm.
So for him to be a top of a layers and
Say it again.
yeah, Akuto sits atop an infinite amount of an infinite layered hierarchy.
So one layer of infinity.
He should be. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. He should be. He should be infinite amount. He should be on top of an infinite amount of infinite layered hierarchy, right?
So one layer of infinity, correct?
No, be
You're arguing an infinite amount of infinite layers.
yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah.
Why would it be an infinite amount of infinite layers?
What did you say?
I said, why would it be an infinite amount of infinite layers?
Okay. Because he'd need to be of that power level to create an infinite amount of these infinite layered hierarchies.
No, what it says, like he creates like finite amount of characters that make infinity. So it'll be like a finite amount of infinite layers. It wouldn't like go up to like infinite layers of infinity.
Because those would have to stack on top of each other because you need to create an infinite amount, right? But here's the thing, right, with those, right? He's literally able to inside of those infinite amount of infinite layered stories, he's able to basically control at least a portion of the law of identity within them.
Right. So law of identity would just like scale to how high the cosmology is for that story and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Why would that be the case? Because the law of identity itself remains constant throughout any amount of power.
Alright, but like for because like what's your argument with the law of identity? Like because it equals this will also equal the law of identity. Basically, it equals
Mm.
itself.
he's been shown to he's been shown able to establish it within his stories, and the law of identity remains constant throughout any level of power. Because
Alright,
A will always equal A.
yeah, right. But like, what is it? The law of identity, even if it like remains constant, one verse like has a higher cosmology, which I have like a more powerful law of identity. Because like different verses can have different cosmology with the same thing. For example, like what is it? Like a universe in like DC can be like universal, but like a universe in Dragon Ball can be like regular universal. So like the law of identity in your verse would just be like how high you have your like cosmology established. And, like what you have your cosmology right now will only be like an just like one layer of infinity. Since like from what you gave me, these finite characters stack up to infinity. So it'll be one layer of infinity.
Hold on. I could also just make the claim that hold on. Let me see. First of all, let me get the scan for the law of identity just so you can look at it. That's universal. Okay. All right. I'm back. I would be Let me see. I have the quote for you. However, that's not just everything that I have for Akuto. Um. All right. But you can look at that if you want. I have other points to make as well, so it's just something to put out there.
Okay.
It's just that you fucking you brain fucked me with the dimensional thing because I'm still confused on that, but it's fine. All right. So I guess if I were to just make another point, it would be that the extra universe gods, because they're the protagonists, I think they're also described as the programmers of their own stories, concepts, etc., who are directly compared to and um, uh, directly compared to Akuto as far as power sets and abilities go, because that infinite hierarchy would exist for Akuto for the same reasons they would exist individually for each lower and higher extra universe god, which would also potentially be another argument for infinite amount of infinite layers into Outerversal. Just via the fact that he's still on top of that hierarchy, and logically speaking, it would be a possibility that all the universe gods are also on top of their own infinite hierarchy, just due to their very nature that they were described as.
Ooh, got a scan too.
Do I what?
I have another scan too. Well, it's actually two scans from post.
Do I have scans for that? What I just said?
No, I'll let you have like an infinite layer of what is it? Infinite universal layers and stuff. Because I got something too as well.
Are you okay? Hold on, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Are you asking me for scans of the claim that I just made?
No, I'm letting you have this infinite layer of infinite universal. Because I have some for this as well.
Okay. Yeah, but right now, wait, infinite layers of infinite layers of infinite layers into outer versal basically is what you're saying?
You basically have infinite layers of you have like an infinite layer of like an outer versal just like stacked on top of each other like
Yeah, sure. All right. Yeah, that's what I'm making the claim of based on the extra universe gods' abilities and power as compared to Akuto. So what's the argument for Blaze Blue, or as I like to call it, blazblue?
as you can see, this is character named Yuki Terumi. Like basically every possibility imaginable he saw. Like in these possibilities they would like also have like the same cosmology just stacked on top of each other over and over again. Like it was this equal they'll just like basically go on up to the point to where this basically rises to infinity and equals your cosmology.
Okay, he observed every possibility. What does that equate to?
Basically it's like since he observed every possibility like have like the same cosmology where the same thing will happen over and over again, right? From like diverse cosmology size.
Sure.
It'll just keep going on until like it equals your size.
Why would that?
Because the reason why you got the reason like this argument would be valid for you because the reason why this argument is valid because an exact same thing basically Akuto made his the other world gods or something, whatever you want to call them, and they did the same thing Akuto did. So it basically be like this also infinite possibility as well. So if you don't if so like basically they all would be like an infinite layer of like infinite outer versal, just stacked on top of each other.
He didn't say that. Like,
Say it again.
where does it? All right. Where does it say that it's to an infinite scale like Akuto? Because it doesn't seem to establish that.
When possibilities
Yeah,
are
but like
possibilities
what
are
about, like,
inherently infinite.
My bad.
Yeah, possibilities are inherently infinite. Since
Okay, but that doesn't equate to being an infinite amount of stories. That could just be all the infinite possibilities within those hundreds of millions of layers.
So all right, what is it? So either way, that would just help my argument more because what is it? I basically would have in one story just all these possibilities until the point where my each possibility would have its own cosmology. You know, basically like one story would be on par with yours, since each story basically cosmology will stack upon each other until it reaches the same amount your character has. Then I also have these other what is it? Stories and possibilities as well.
Okay. So even if we assume that it can do that, are you saying that it doesn't start out at that level?
What is it? It should start out this level.
If it has to build to this level, then Akuto could just narratively erase him before he gets to that level. Right?
Was it Izanami will already be at this level since she just has the highest point in the Forbidden Gate. So it's, the possibilities will already be set up.
Okay. I can just give you this point. It's fine. If you were to take this point, then that I could still bring up the fact that he should be infinitely more powerful because of the fact that he made an infinite amount of these infinite layers into outer versal stories or hierarchies.
No, we would be equal since what was it?
Why would him being infinitely higher be equal?
No, alright, so you made these infinite stories, or made also made these infinite stories and so on, like put you like infinite layers, like infinite outer versal. I have like my cosmology right now will be like this base without possibilities to be like millions of infinite layers. Then with these possibilities, the cosmology would just stack upon each other, which will like equivalent be build up to where it be equivalent to your cosmology. and then izanami like exists in the highest plane.
Hold on. That doesn't. Was that shown? Because it's just saying that he could think of all possibilities, but that doesn't show that he's.
Each possibility, each possibility would have its own cosmology.
Why is that? According to what? Why can't the possibilities just be within one cosmology? Why can't it be all possibilities within one?
Because there's there's multiple cosmologies, and each possibility would have. I can just show you how my
Sure, because like earlier you said that there's
each
millions.
yeah, I
Earlier
can show
you
you.
said there's millions, not infinite. And it seems like a large stretch to say that when you bring up millions of these cosmologies and that he can fulfill every possibility in them, that he would equal Akuto, who can fulfill every possibility in an infinite amount of cosmologies, infinitely layered, right?
This scan shows that the BlazBlue has different stories. Like these different stories would like basically have these possibilities. So it'd be like what's it gonna call it? Akuto making his like other stories as well.
The Tongan system and its observers with all the blazblue Okay. But those stories that you presented were only shown to be of infinite amount within millions of cosmologies.
No, but possibilities are would inherently go up to infinity.
Yeah, do you understand my point that the cosmologies that can be going up to infinity could exist infinitely within the millions of cosmologies against where Akuto has infinite cosmologies, if not infinitely more, where he has infinite possibilities as well.
Cosmology would stack upon itself, like what is it? This the Takamaka. It'll stack upon itself, so it literally would go up to the point where it's equal to yours.
According to what?
According to the point of the infinite possibilities. And,
there's a difference between what this guy's saying as possibilities. There's a difference between what this guy's saying as possibilities and what Akuto said as literal story possibilities. Story possibilities would literally go into if there's an individual, like there's infinite amount of possibilities, right? And they all apply to these stories. There'd be infinite amount of stories. This guy's just talking about infinite amount of possibilities within like one cosmology, millions of cosmologies. Not.
But I just brought up to you how this the BlazBlue has many different stories, and in these stories you would have Terami as well, who can see through these possibilities. So would be the equivalent to Akuto's eye as well.
Just because he can see through them or be above them means that he's above a finite amount of infinite amount of cosmology. Infinite amount of possibilities within finite cosmology.
Because possibilities can stretch out past a finite number.
Oh my god. Then I can just bring up the oh my god. Where? What according to what?
No, okay, so alright. So if I move my hand like what is it? Like one degree to the left, right? Okay. That would make a possibility to where I move my hand like 0.1 inside of it and add infinitum to keep going like to like an infinite amount, and then like I can just go the other way for a different possibility and just like keep going.
Multiverse theory, I think it's called here.
Yeah, because that's what possibilities are. It's basically a multiverse theory. So cosmology would literally stack upon itself.
If I were to put it into Akuto side, multiverse theory would just be a possibility that.
Say it again.
If I were to put it into Akuto, right? If I put it into Akuto side terms, multiverse theory exists as a possibility within one story. He's not only beyond. Listen, right? Hold on. Akuto's beyond that, right? He's not only beyond possibility. He's beyond the concept of possibility. Like we've established, he's beyond the concept of possibilities. Of an infinite amount of stories. Each that you've already given to me are infinite amount of infinite layers into high outer. That's way more than just being beyond possibility of a finite amount of stories that's been dictated so far. Right? You can fit an infinite amount of possibilities in a cosmology. According to multiverse theory, it's very possible. Mm-hmm. And then to further that, right, I think that it's time that I go back to Akuto once more. On top of this, he literally, right, was beyond the causality, the physicality, and the total statistics, you could say, of this state anyway. I can elaborate once I post this GIF, not GIF, this quote. Let me get it really quickly.
Like after we finish a few points, I'm gonna break up a little bit of hacks so we can like go to conclusions if you want to.
No, well, I'm just gonna argue that Akuto's existence fictionally transcends, or at least universally transcends these hacks.
You actually wouldn't be able to do that because it's say that, right? You you would have to show like he has like resistance to these hacks anyway.
I wouldn't.
Because if you
I
don't,
wouldn't.
right?
Here's
Yes,
the
you
thing.
would. Because like in order to claim that, right? You have to provide evidence that he already has like resistance to these hacks.
No,
Because if
you'd
not,
have to show. You'd have
you'd
to show that
assume-
those hacks can affect
no,
beings that.
because you would
fictionally
assume
transcend.
he gets affected on the lowest level possible if he has no resistance at all.
God. No, hold on, dude. So do you
That is
believe that your hack resistances scale to your existence bare minimum?
For some of them, not all of them.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Because some hacks can like scale to your existence, but some wouldn't be scale to your existence.
No, hack resistance.
Like all hacks resistance.
Like I think that hack resistance in all hacks in general would scale to your existence, unless
It
shown
wouldn't scale to your existence because like AP is like a physical existence, and like some hacks wouldn't be a physical existence.
Right. But, okay. From what I'm arguing, right, Akuto not only fictionally transcends him, he transcends the concept of him. He transcends the concepts that transcend him. Right? He's stronger, he's faster because he exists on a realm that's inaccessible to your character.
All right, but
And
then
he-
you still have to show like resistance to like this level of hacks. Because
I-
if you don't, you'll
right.
assume you get affected on the lowest level.
You'd be like arguing, right, that a character, right? If you had a character that's 3D, and I had a character that's 4D, let's just say that, just for the sake of this, you would have to show that your character has hacks on a greater level than 3D, that they have 4D level hacks to affect a 4D being, just based on
No,
their
because that would in order to be that, you would assume that 4D character has hack resistance on a 4D level, which would you have you would have some
entire
evidence for.
existence transcends anything that exists within the 3D world.
Okay, so let's say this 3D character has like conceptual erasure on a 3D level, right?
On a 3D
Then this
level.
4D character, yeah, like a 3D conceptual erasure, like.
Okay,
It's
then
fucking wild.
they can conceptually erase 3D objects, right? The concept of a 3D object would be gone, but a fourth dimensional being transcends that. And keep in mind that I'm being very lenient because I'm trying to make the argument that Akuto literally transcends the concepts that transcend your character, right?
You wouldn't assume that he has resistance unless like he's showing it on that level. Because if you haven't
then
shown
I can just
resistance,
make the argument that my character would literally, right? He's in charge of the narrative that gives your character these abilities. Okay, he's in charge of the story. He controls your character's plot. He can destroy it anytime he wants. Look at the scan that I just posted, right? The level, right? You agreed on my scaling, and then I gave you he's infinitely stronger. And then even on that plane of existence, he transcends the causality of that realm, right? He transcends his earthly form, right? He's literally transcending even that level, right? By an unimaginable degree.
do you have
And-
resistance
and-
like binding?
Pardon?
Do you have resistance like binding?
Binding is in what?
Like it just binds you. Like you can't use no powers. You're just binded in that
What
single
does
place.
that mean?
Like you're just stuck and you can't move unless this person like.
Okay, that binding power, right, would literally be reliant on the narrative that's creating
No, it's
your
passive.
character.
It's passive. So like it literally would just as soon as the battle
Yeah,
starts.
a passive hack ability is literally an element of a story, and Akuto is in charge.
All right, but then you have does your character have like passive narrative like plot manipulation?
Okay, the passiveness is that he exists beyond the concept of that binding.
Okay, but
He's-
can he activate his ability passively? Like and also like
That's his existence. That's literally his existence.
no, because standard versus battle assumptions like both characters would be like a neutral playing field to where they both can attack each other. So he wouldn't like be in it like a higher story. They would be like in the same realm. And
Okay.
the passive binding would still attack.
He can be in the same realm, but the fact of the matter is that his existence and power, even within that same realm, would be so like your character couldn't comprehend him even if he's in the same realm as him, right? Kind of like what like a maybe this is about I think this is a decent comparison. Do you know what a tesseract is?
Tesseract from like was it Marvel?
No, a tesseract is a fourth dimension. It's basically a fourth dimensional cube, right? We can try to make a tesseract. We can try to comprehend it in our realm, but like it can't be comprehended by us because we can only imagine 3D shapes and objects to make it up. But in reality, it's still beyond our comprehension, even if we try to place it into our existence. Like, can you I just want you to show evidence that your character's abilities or hack abilities
This one,
can
okay.
transcend people who fictionally transcend the concepts that your character abides by narratively. Yeah, so can you show evidence that your character can do this to people who literally transcend concepts that narratively bind them? Or that your verse can?
Yeah. Like higher, like basically how I was talking about the high tiers. She can like basically some of the high tiers are relative to each other, and she's able to use his abilities on them. Like there, she's using on Tsubaki.
So?
Yeah, Tsubaki has like basically has the power of water, a power of water amp. Like power of water amp, like literally can like shake off like Izanami's like mind hacks and powers and shit from like Jin using it.
Okay. So does that literally transcend the concept of like her narrative?
Yeah, because you know the embryo I showed earlier, basically the author and all the stories.
Okay.
And like yeah, and then that's the smallest piece. So like in higher pieces, like yeah, that's your.
But we
So
already
like
we
they
already
would like
we already
transcend
went
their
over
it
the
works within
scaling,
their.
right? We already went over the scaling, right? That Akuto is literally infinitely beyond that, and then he literally transcends the causality of something infinitely beyond that. Like cause and effect on that is like cause and effect on an infinitely higher degree literally mean nothing to Akuto. And that's kind of higher than your character can do, I'm imagining. Like honestly, I know this is uphill for you, and I'm doing a pretty trash job. But I don't think that your character can really do anything versus Akuto at this rate.
We can go to conclusions after I post like the mind hacks thing.
Sure, and then I'll just post. I guess I haven't really posted that Akuto can destroy narratives, even though I don't really think that a being who can create narratives needs to be proven that he can do that. Here's Akuto ending story creation. So he's just gonna end the creation of your versus story. He controls the concept of the narrative of your versus story. He's beyond the causality of something infinitely greater than your versus story. Again, you can talk about infinite possibilities, but Akuto is beyond the concept of those infinite possibilities, if not higher. So feel free to post that. Honestly, this is why I'm trying to the lifetime.
Yeah, I'm about to.
That's easier for me.
Alright, so I'll just post the scan select to prove her abilities are passive and like the mind hacks because like Jin was able to fix it. Yeah, so we can go to conclusions if you want. Forks?
Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
No, did who started? Me or you?
Um, I think that you started.
Um, or you can go first, and if I started.
Okay. So firstly, I want to say that despite the audio trouble on my part, which is honestly my bad, this was a good debate, Jin. Thank you for taking me up on it. Anyway, let's get into this. I think that despite the kind of failed attempt at scaling Kudo to literally the law of identity, I think that because of the fact that I provided evidence which Jin seemed to agree to, or at least give me, Akuto being infinite layers in the outer versal to an infinite extent, or however you want to word that. That Akuto transcends his verse for several reasons. For one, it was obviously, as I said, it was kind of brought out that the cosmology had several hundred million or just millions of these stories or possibilities, whereas Akuto's had an infinite amount. Akuto is beyond the concept of possibilities, which I brought up, which obviously is beyond just being or seeing possibilities or an infinite amount of possibilities. Akuto is narratively is literally above the concept of this versus narrative, and can just erase them with ease, whereas their hacks or abilities wouldn't be able to do anything to a being that literally fictionally transcends them in every way on a conceptual level as well, I might add. And finally, yeah, I know I did probably not too well at this, but that's just going to be my conclusion, I suppose.
Alright, I think I won because I brought up hacks that he never refuted, and like he tried to argue like hacks resistance and like your physical body basically scale to each other, and I said it's not, and I brought up like a an example for it because with the 3D 4D conceptual eraser thing, he basically like presupposed like the 4D or had like resistance to this 3D conceptual eraser, even though like wouldn't have been shown, so like he would still get effect on the lowest level possible. Since he like never refuted any of my hacks, we would assume like he get affected by the lowest level possible. And I brought up passive binding and like passive mind manips because the secret scans I posted. Also like even with the cosmology thing, we would like even if he was higher, he would still get affected by hacks. Like that's why I think I won. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
done.
good debate. I guess the judges
that
are
it?
good to go.
Alright, I'm gonna take my opinion first. I really think Forks won. Because in his conclusion, he did state that his cosmology was higher, and you steel manned him on that, Jin. Like, that was pretty retarded. Initially, I really thought you were gonna win, Jin, because I saw that scan of the blue, but then, like, you started winking, and that was retarded of you. And then, anyway, and then, like, he also said that he would narratively race and that anything or any hacks you brought up, it would be relevant since, you know, his character scales above yours. And even though you said that hacks, like, it does matter, because if your hacks don't scale to his, like, level of a character, they're not going to affect him at all, Jin. So I do think his character did win, and I do think that's my opinion.
All right. I basically agree with everything Dream said. You know, you just allow Force to scale his his character's like state of being so much higher than yours that any hacks you brought up like just didn't fucking matter, and all of his hacks would just triumph yours and just like one shot you or whatever. So I do think Force won as well. Now, if you want, you can add your input.
Yeah, I don't even think I need to repeat you guys any
Yeah.
further.
All right, yeah, just to make sure, right? Literally, but if you really what? So if he had like no resistance, right? It's like near mine
I'll,
hacks.
I'll give like I'll give.
Just on a higher level, so it doesn't matter.
He said like that you'd have to prove that your hacks would even affect him because of
No, but he, like,
because how incredibly powerful he is. And,
no, but he
and
never
how
brought up
fast-
the
how fast-
resistance. Like,
Okay,
And
no,
no,
his like refutation was that your hacks isn't even large enough to affect him because of
Yeah,
how
no,
big
no.
his being is.
no, I said like cause like I bring up the analogy with the 4D and 3D being, cause like if the 4D being like never showed like resistance to like this conceptual ratio, he would still be effective.
Yes, and he brought up the analogy by saying that if their conceptual erasure only works on a 3-dimensional scale, then it wouldn't affect him because
No,
it's too small.
but- And I refuted that by saying, yeah, that would be presupposing this 4D person had resistance already.
No, it wouldn't.
No,
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No, it would not. Oh my gosh.
No, I'm not understanding.
If it's too small to even affect him, like you're basically erasing zero, like literally zero amount of that person with the like area of effective erasure that you have.
What?
Oh my
So
God.
he doesn't like if the area of effect of the conceptual erasure is only 3-dimensional, then it would only erase 0% of the being that is 4-dimensional.
No, I'm not getting
Like
this.
it would not affect them at all because it's only got 3-dimensional area of effect.
Okay, I'm really not getting this. I'm really not getting this.
Jin, do you understand like
Okay,
like values of
Jin, just like why would it affect them like at all? Like you just keep saying they don't have a resistance, but the fact
yeah, so like you would assume
the
you'd
fact that it the fact that it would only erase 0% of their being in itself is a resistance.
No, but because you would assume he gets a affecting the lowest level possible.
Wait,
Okay, being
hold on.
affected on the
Zero
lowest
D.
level possible.
Shit, fucking
Okay,
definitely
okay.
dumb stuff.
Erasing 0% of his being wouldn't affect him at all.
Jin,
Like,
do you know what
is that
values
hard
of
for you to
Keep
grasp?
in mind that my analogy was like really lowballed because my character literally like transcended the concept of the narrative.
yeah, Jin, do you know what values of infinite are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
so
just
you-
like to mention that, like, a 3-dimensional being using 3-dimensional erasure on a 4-dimensional being, it's like me thinking of a person that doesn't even exist, and me thinking about them trying to erase me. Like it's literally the same thing. Their erasure is in itself is non-existent in comparison to me, and that's why it doesn't work on me. It's not because I have a resistance to erasure.
Okay.
What, Naya?
So Jin, okay, Jin, you know what values of infinite are, right? Okay. So you understand that each dimension has its own value of infinite. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And each dimension's value of infinite is surpassed by said inaccessible cardinal of the next dimension, right? And when you have a 4th-dimensional being that is of a higher value of infinite, your lower value of infinite will not matter. Whether or not it's like a resistance to mind hacks or conceptual erasure, again, as like Naya brought up, like the destructive capacity would not matter, especially since it's like a value of infinite to another, and it's a dimensional transcendence, which would be a more than infinite degree higher than another. So this conceptual erasure would be completely pointless, and it would be void in comparison to what Akuto brought up.
Jen, bro, I'm gonna tell you something. Like I said this already at the beginning, but if you had not winked, you would have crushed him.
Your like cosmology was higher, and then you still manned him and
Yeah, because I
down.
bring up the possibilities
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like, it would just add up.
That was irrelevant, bro.
No, okay. Look, the reason, okay, you would have won if you would have just went with like the actual
regular
infinite
scaling,
dimensional to universal transcendence.
I know, I don't know.
Not infinite, but millions of them. Because he didn't have anything anywhere close to that level, and for some
Yeah,
reason you
dude.
just
Yeah, because I wanted to use the possibilities link, but like it didn't work.
before that you were just using all sorts of wank even before that, and
I know I was.
and it was just like so tedious and a waste of everyone's time, and I just want you to never ever try to use that wank again. Like, it's extremely bad. I don't see why it would ever work on anyone.
I pulled up the Aquaman shit. I was like, what the fuck?
So and then you like I had to go get additional scans to try to support it, and it still never even went through.
It did go through.
No.
I mean, I like really didn't understand the dimensional shit that you're trying to bring up, honestly.
Okay, Jin, you still banned him and then downplayed your cosmology to equal, which is where you really fucked up at. Like, why did you do that?
No, I gave him like an infinite layer, like infinite layers, like
No, your scaling was so much higher, and then you still man
You got way too cocky.
That was wrong. You
I didn't downplay my cosmology. I upplayed his cosmology.
No,
No, I
you
didn't
didn't.
upplay his cosmology.
I'll let you
No,
have
I had millions of infinite layers, and he had infinite layers of infinite layers.
Okay, and then you said, yeah, I'll still man you and use this possibility hack, right? And then just max your cos. So you did downplay your cosmology.
I didn't downplay it. Upplayed. Like,
Jin, listen. This
was
is
blanking.
how it should have went. All right, this is how it should have went. You had the millions of times into Outerversal, right? The millions of Outerversal transcends.
No, I had millions of infinite. I had like infinite layers of Outerversal.
Scaling. No wank.
Oh, actual scaling.
Yeah. All right. If you had brought that up, all Forks ever brought up, because what he thinks is a fictional transcendence is an Outerversal an Outerversal layer. An outer I was saying this like a lot earlier too. An Outerversal difference is like an Outerversal transcendence is more than infinite amount of fictional transcendences, Jin. That's way more than anything he could have got. Any set of infinite like layers into fictional transcendences, an Outerversal layer, Outerversal be above.
You cut out.
Even if he had infinite by infinite by infinite layers into Outerversal, infinite by infinite layers, any of that, an Outerversal transcendence would still be above that many amount of fictional.
No, I thought he got his I thought he got his base cosmology to like one infinite layer.
Doesn't matter. That one infinite layer was just a bunch of fictional transcendences. One Outerversal layer would still be better than that.
Yeah, you did downplay your cosmology. You still manned him and maxed his because you thought his was higher.
Yeah.
You did that.
Alright, I'm gonna stop the recording.
That was just
now.
your cockiness and your stupidity on your part.